I was born in 1971, and this is long before we were using ultrasound technology to determine the gender of babies in utero or count 10 fingers and 10 toes. So it was not only a surprise to my young parents that I was a girl, but the bigger surprise was that I was born without my left arm. Now, this is also during a time when fathers were out in the hospital lobby chain-smoking cigarettes in the hospital, while mothers delivered with just doctors and nurses present. So when I arrived, they sedated my mother and whisked me off for further tests and went to tell my father he had a daughter, which was such happy news. But they followed it with, but she was born without her arm. She's got a pretty severe handicap. Now, as my dad tells it, he was flooded with fears. What will become of my girl? Will she have a normal life, a job? Will I have to take care of this kid for the rest of my life? When my mother came to and they presented me to her, she said, "Is this it? She's just missing her hand? Oh, we got this." So a few days later, I was home. And I love these photos of my young parents for a lot of reasons, but particularly the one of my dad, because I've used this photo all over the country and now here at TED on this stage, and I never got his consent to put his photo and his little red skivvies out there for the world to see. Are we still good, Dad? As you can see, I was a happy baby, and I grew and developed and hit every developmental milestone that other babies did, like pushing up, sitting, crawling, and in fact, I crawled in such a lopsided fashion that maybe it prompted me to stand up early. So because of my limb difference, I was advanced, right? I walked a little bit early, and I was literally running circles around other babies. I was fit with my first prosthesis at 9 months old. And I began doing things bimanually, stacking blocks, holding hands, maneuvering objects. There wasn't anything other kids could do that I couldn't do. I made a world fit for people with 2 hands work for me, a girl with a hand and a hook. I was full of potential. I was just like every other kid, except I wasn't. And I didn't see any other kids or know any other kids like me. And it became very evident that I was the only kid like me in town when I went to kindergarten. I'd say that's precisely the time that I started seeing myself not for all of my potential, but rather for all that I was lacking. The attention that my hook got me in school made me very uncomfortable. I developed a sense of shame and guilt for not looking like and being like everyone else. Kids would come up to me and say, "What's wrong with your arm?" in a real stinky way. And what I wanted to say was, "Nothing, what's wrong with your face?" But instead, I just told them that I was born this way, which never really satisfied their questions. I was an easy target for name calling, like Captain Hook and Tool Shed, which really hurt, and I don't even know what it meant. I just knew other kids weren't getting called Tool Shed, it was just me. I was picked last for teams in PE because people made assumptions that I wasn't going to be good at anything. Even adults made assumptions about my capabilities and my cognitive abilities, often talking down to me or babying me like I couldn't understand them. I'm like, I'm missing my arm. My brain, we're good here, fully intact. But in order to combat the negative attention that my arm often got, I would pull my shirt sleeves down, put it in my pocket, hide it behind my back. Inadvertently in doing this, I was showing the world that this is something that I was uncomfortable with. But that wasn't true. I was uncomfortable with the way people responded to me. I became very consumed and concerned with the way the world perceived me, and I started making decisions based on my arm, or lack thereof. Decisions like what instrument to play in elementary school. What do you think I picked? Just throw some out. Drums. Oh, drums would have been so rock and roll and right up my alley. But instead, I chose at 10 years old the trumpet, not because I love the sweet sound of that horn. No, it was a safe choice. There was no risk in failing in front of other people. It required 3 fingers. I had them. I knew I could do it. And I knew that it wouldn't give anyone the chance to point at me and say, "I knew she couldn't do it because she's missing her arm." Now, there were times that I would stretch my comfort zone. I really wanted to be part of a team. So I tried out for the basketball team. And though I was good enough to be on the team, the coaches pulled me aside and they said, "Carrie, we think you might be a danger to the other kids. If you want to keep playing, what we'd like you to do is wrap your prosthesis in soft foam." What do you think I did? Quit. I quit playing basketball. And, well, I thought that, team sports weren't made for people like me. So instead, I started investing my time in individual sports. But, I'd say you strap a pair of skates on me, I'm a danger to anybody within about 10 feet of me. In high school, I was exhausted with all this covering up in an effort to make other people comfortable in my presence. I had seen this quote, and I think it was on a refrigerator magnet. It looked just like this. And it was, "Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself." And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do that. So I went to work creating a persona that I thought would be acceptable, that I thought people would admire. I wanted to be confident, so I pretended that I was. I pulled my shirt sleeves up, I pulled my chest back and my chin up, and I went into the world pretending that it didn't bother me that people were pointing or staring or whispering as I walked by. What was worse, they turned away sometimes, not making eye contact with me. I carried this desire to create a persona that people would admire into my 30s. Now, in my 30s, I had seen a number of people in the limb loss community making great strides professionally, socially, by becoming athletes, para-athletes. And I thought, why not get in on that bandwagon? Can't hurt me, right? So I started doing races, and I was part of an all-challenged triathlon team. So my swim partner, he had lost 3 of his limbs in a train accident. My bike partner was missing his leg. And then me on the all-challenged team, I was doing the run, which I felt very fraudulent about, to be considered challenged. Nonetheless, I was there, right? And I met this gentleman, and he's like, "Hey, you're a triathlete?" And I couldn't say, "Oh, no, I'm just here feeding my ego's need for acceptance." And I said, "No, I'm just doing the run." And he said, "Did you know that there's never been a female below-elbow amputee competitor at the national level in para-triathlon?" And I was like, "No, I don't follow the sport." And he said, "I'm the president of the USA team. Tell you what, come to New York City this summer, do the race, and look, since there's never been anybody in your category, all you have to do is finish and you will be the national champion." Bingo! Jackpot, all right? So I stand before you today, a 2-time para-triathlon national champion. Full disclosure, I had no competition. Look, all of these efforts, they were really just all ego-driven. They were all about me, trying to get me out from under my fear shadow, to deal with the pains of childhood rejection, of not being perfect, of not fitting in. All of these efforts, they really weren't getting me closer to my true self. Titles behind my name, trophies on the wall, medals around my neck, that doesn't tell you who I am. I was at a conference earlier this year, and I heard this incredibly dynamic speaker say, "In your life, you will either be in service of your fears or in service of your potential." And I thought about that for a minute, and I thought, why did it take me so long to get that message? And I thought of my childhood. What do you do when your fears, anxieties, and insecurities are so powerful that they block your vision and your ability to see yourself clearly? How do you serve anything but your fears if you can't see past them? The one place where my fears, anxieties, insecurities, all that ego stuff, it didn't show up, it was when I was working in the service of others. Whether it was when I was a young campfire girl, making arts and crafts with members of an adult group home, or volunteering in my high school with developmentally impaired students, teaching them how to count change and navigate the bus system and find their potential. or whether it was when I became a teacher myself, or had my own children and became a mother, and worked with other children to bring out the potential in them. There's just no room up here or right here for all of your ego stuff when you genuinely stand in service of another. 20 years ago, I took a job in the prosthetics industry that allowed me to work with other people with limb differences like myself. We built a nationwide mentoring program that is ready to serve anyone who is facing or has gone through amputation. What we learned is that there is no greater way to heal yourself, to find your strength, and to live your purpose than by helping another in a similar situation. 13 years ago, I was invited to attend a camp for kids with limb differences. It was in Maine, and I arrived a little bit late. And when I got there, the kids were in the lake splashing around and swimming and having a great time. And the beach was littered with prosthetic arms and legs. To the layperson, this may have looked like a grisly crime scene. To me, it was pure perfection. Here we see young kids helping one another, talking about fears and anxieties, trying new things in a safe and supported space. Helping each other helps them become confident, strong, independent, and comfortable in their own skin. Serving each other's highest potential brings them effortlessly into recognizing their own. I think back of my own childhood, and I used to think this was a curse. But I've pivoted on this beautiful circumstance of my life, and I've used it to connect with people, all people, in real deep and meaningful ways. And in doing so, I have come to know the real me. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Through service, you find you're not fearful, you're thoughtful. You're not self-consumed, you're generous. You're not limited, you're gifted. You are not alone. Now, today, when I'm considering my decisions, I think about my passion and my motivation and my intention. If my motivation is to be of service to something greater than my ego, and my intention is to bring about something good in the world, then I know I'm tapping into my authentic self. You can serve your fears, or you can serve your potential. And if you find yourself in a moment where you can't see past your fears to your potential, get out of your own way, go beyond, and step into service.